Well, as we head into the general election, the single biggest issue that is resonating among voters across the board is jobs. On the 28th of January, the acting chief of India's Statistics Commission, PC Mohanan, and another member suddenly quit, saying the government was sidelining the commission and delaying a much-awaited report on jobs. It turns out that report, which the government later described as a draft, shows unemployment at a 45-year high. It was published by the Business Standard. Mr. Mohanan's decision to quit highlights the controversy around the veracity of government data on jobs and also reignites the debate on the sanctity of our institutions. Mr. Mohanan joins us now on NDTV. Mr. Mohanan, thank you for taking the time out to speak to us. You know, when you said that you felt that the Statistics Commission was being sidelined, sir, can you elaborate on how exactly that was happening in your experience?
Let me start by saying that the Statistical Commission was set up as an apex body for all government statistics. It had all the vetting powers of national statistics, and it has been functioning from 2015. Now, over the years, we have seen that many of the recommendations of the Commission were not being taken seriously. And this thing we have reported in our annual reports also, specifically in the 2017-18 report of the Commission and presented to the government. We clearly mentioned that we are pained that the government has not been taking seriously the recommendations of the Commission, and the resources of the Commission are also not adequate. And it also says that chairman of the chairman has tried his best to have the intervention of the cabinet minister. Now, all these are reported in our annual report, and that is on record and seen by all the members and signed by everybody. So it's not a new thing that we are bringing out in our resignation. We have kept waiting. But when it came to the National Sample Survey report, the Commission has full oversight powers of this statistical NSSO. And one of the reports which we approved on December 5th, as per the release calendar, was not getting released. So this was the last straw, as I mentioned earlier. So it's not that suddenly because of the report period, but this was the last. We thought a very important reason.
As you said, sir, that the non-release of the NSSO jobs report was the last straw, and that there were a series of things happening in your tenure that made you feel that the Commission was being sidelined. So when the government, came out later, and the Niti Aayog chief came out and said that your reasons for resigning were personal, what would you say to that? What did you say when you stepped down? What did you say to the government?
I said exactly what I told you in my letter. We have made it very clear. I gave the specific instances, and we thought our continuing in the Commission was not serving any purpose because the Commission was not very effective, and there is nothing personal in that. It's for the system. So the government should take note of these issues and improve the system. And Dr. Meenakshi, who resigned along with me, also said the same thing.
Nothing personal in your resignation, as you put it. And when the NSSO report was not being released, I'm sure you would have flagged it with the government that it should be released since you had signed off on it on the 5th of December, as you said. What was the response when you raised that?
I did not get any official response. I did contact the chief statistician through email and also met him. Both of us, me and Dr. Meenakshi, met him on I think we met him on 23rd January when I flew from Kerala to Delhi only for this purpose. We didn't get any specific reason for the delay. They only said there is some need to check this quarterly data and things like that, but that was not satisfactory for us. And the fact is, all along has been that NSSO reports are released within a few days of the approval of the report.
Well, can I ask you that, when you looked at the data that the NSSO report had prepared, and when you look at past NSSO reports on unemployment, how do you look at the comparison, particularly with the last NSSO report of 2011-2012? The government keeps saying that, they said this is a draft report and not to make a comparison even, to the last one. But is that correct? Should we not be comparing it to 2011-12? Or how do you read the data?
See, I cannot comment anything on the numbers which is now leaked out. But and even after 2 months, I do not recall the numbers. But comparability is not an issue at all. The comparability problem comes only when you change the concept of employment or unemployment. There is no change in the concept of employment or unemployment. and it is 100% comparable.
100% comparable. Well,
Yes.
Mr. Mohanan, you know, when you're saying that you felt that the commission was being sidelined, it does raise then a bigger question of the autonomy of institutions and the sanctity of institutions. So is that something that does worry you, that you're seeing with the Statistics Commission and maybe with other bodies as well? I mean, should the Niti Aayog have gotten involved, for instance, in this exercise of the NSSO data, or even with the GDP back series? There was a lot of controversy over that also.
Yeah, for that you need to go back into why this commission came into existence. The world over, there has been a feeling that the statistics, especially the official statistics, should be independent of the government. It should be produced impartially. And there are certain fundamental principles of official statistics, which this government also has notified in 2016. And that very clearly says that statistics should be totally independent of any other involvement. It should only be based on technically sound principles. And this commission was set up to oversee and ensure that this kind of autonomy is maintained. And so it is important for the commission. And it's a very important issue for the commission that autonomy of the statistical system is retained, and that alone can bring credibility to our statistics. And this credibility is a very important issue. Niti Aayog being one of, it has been the, I think, yes, right from the planning commission days, I mean before Niti Aayog, the member secretary has been an ex officio member of the commission, possibly because they are one of the users of the data, major users of the data. And after the Niti Aayog came into existence, the chief executive officer replaced the member secretary of the planning commission. Now, a commission is the final authority for NSS reports. After that, Niti Aayog, which is not getting Niti Aayog getting involved, is not a very desirable thing, as has been commended by a lot of people. All the previous chairmen of the commission also commended that Niti Aayog should not enter into the picture of releasing official statistics. They are a user, they can take the data, but not getting involved in that. So that is a very important issue. And raising points like it's a draft report is just not acceptable. Once the report is approved by the commission, that is as good as a final report. You cannot say it is to be approved by somebody, government. No. When you use the word approved, it creates certain questions of credibility. You can accept a report or reject a report. But statistics, government cannot approve the statistics. That raises questions of credibility. That is worrying.
Well, Mr. Mohanan, thank you very much for speaking to us on NDTV today. The issue of jobs is a serious one, and the issue of how data is collected on jobs is also a serious one. So thank you for sharing your side of the story today on NDTV. Thanks very much.
Thank you.